This is my fault. All my fault. She whispered, her voice nearly drowned by the rustle of wind through the trees. Her face was buried in her hands as she sat slouched on the wooden bench, shoulders trembling in sync with every broken breath. It was early evening in the park, that quiet, golden hour when the sun hesitates at the horizon, casting long shadows and an amber hue over everything. There were no children screaming, no couples laughing. Just silence. And her. I was seated a short distance away, just far enough to pretend not to hear, just close enough for her pain to wrap around my chest like a vine. That should have been my cue to leave. But I cared too much. Almost too much for my own good. I watched her for a moment longer, then stood up, slowly, carefully, and took a few steps toward her. "Hey, is everything okay?" I asked, my voice soft, respectful of her sorrow. She didn't lift her head. Didn't speak. Only sobbed. Softly. Sharply. Like each tear was fighting its way out of her throat. It was the kind of silence that spoke of grief, or guilt. Maybe both. I should have walked away. People like me, the bleeding hearts, we tend to think we're helping when really, we're just walking straight into storms with open arms. I sat down beside her. Not too close. Just near enough to let her know she wasn't alone. "I can leave, if you'd prefer that," I said gently. She shook her head, barely, but said nothing. So I stayed. Minutes passed in silence, interrupted only by the occasional crack of a twig or the gentle rush of evening wind through the dying leaves. And then, she spoke. "He trusted me," she said, voice hoarse and distant. "And I ruined everything." I turned slightly toward her, but before I could respond, she leaned away, her arms tightly crossed like armor. "I don't deserve kindness," she said. "Not after what I've done." I didn't ask for details. I just listened. And when she began to cry again, harder this time, I offered her my jacket. She resisted at first, but eventually accepted it, pulling it tight around her like a fragile shell. Over the following half hour, her walls began to crumble. Piece by piece. Her name was Lara. She spoke in fragments, between hiccuped sobs and trembling fingers. Of a man she betrayed. Of something she couldn't take back. Of voices in her head that wouldn't stop screaming. Still, something in me believed she just needed someone to believe in her. So I stayed. I offered comfort. Warmth. Patience. Even when she flinched at my touch. Even when she told me not to. Even when something inside me whispered, "Run." The next thing I remember is the hospital ceiling. Blinding white. Cold. A nurse shouting something I couldn't understand. Gloves pressed against my throat. Voices rising. Pressure. Too much pressure. Then numbness. But not before the memory. The one that played over and over in my mind like a looped horror scene. We were walking through the park again, hours later. The night air cooler now. She seemed calmer, even grateful. She asked if we could talk more. Said I made her feel safe. I smiled, foolishly flattered by the fragile trust one thought I'd earned. We sat again on that same bench. She reached for my hand. And then, a glint, a whisper, "I'm sorry." And the sharp, stinging heat of a blade across my throat. Now here I am, chest rising weakly as machines beep and doctors shout orders and my blood paints their gloves crimson. Fading in and out. Caught somewhere between consciousness and nothingness. And in that fog, one thought claws its way to the surface. Maybe she was right. Maybe it really was all her fault. But maybe, it was mine. Because I stayed. Because I didn't listen to her silence.